Hi folks, the Filipina P here, and today I'm gonna do one of my casual chats instead of my normal studio videos because I'm leaving on a trip out of town tomorrow and I have all my equipment packed already, so here we are. Now in my past few videos, well, really just about all my videos, I see comments that talk about how Filipinos take advantage of foreigners and just use them for financial gain or to provide for their families. I understand there's a lot of resentment regarding the situation, and it leaves a bad taste in your mouth when it becomes obvious that you're often expected to chip in for her family. I don't like the system either, as I've said in many of my other videos previously, but that's sometimes what's expected here, and I'm just telling it like it is. The mistake Western guys make, though, is that they think they're the only ones who are affected by this because they're rich and it's all some kind of scam. The truth is, the system is the same whether or not there's a foreigner involved. So today, I'm going to show you things from an angle that never gets covered and explain what happens when a Filipino marries another Filipino. I think after you watch this, you won't feel singled out. It might still piss you off, but it'll give you a much better appreciation for what's really going on here. So sit back, relax, and take a look at things through the eyes of a Filipino man and what's expected of him. The first thing you need to understand is that everything is about status here, family status. So when we marry Filipino to Filipino, the money and status of the wife is just as important as the man's, unlike in Western culture. Generally, you guys aren't really that concerned about a woman's financial situation. It's just not that important because, there are usually opportunities to make money where you are. You're usually more concerned about being emotionally compatible with each other, and you don't worry so much about which one of you has more money. Here, though, we have more of a caste system, and there's not a lot of movement between castes. You usually marry into a family that has the same status that your husband has, and any chance to go up in status is a big thing here. In societies like ours, you always try to marry up if you can, whether you're a man or a woman. That doesn't mean we don't marry for love. It's just that if you fall in love with someone from a lower caste, you're not going to get the approval of your family. Since it's the same for both parties here, people usually end up marrying someone with the same amount of resources. And this kind of thinking starts early. And, even when two young people are just dating. I think it happened during the Spanish occupation. You might think it's just foreigners that have to pay to impress the family. No, because it's the same thing for local guys. For instance, they'll take the parents and maybe the whole family out to dinner to try to impress them because most of the time, it's all about approval. The parents want to know what does your boyfriend or girlfriend's family do. They want to know how much they're earning. I know, guys, I've said it before. Sometimes we're kind of intrusive. And what kind of house they live in. They want to know what the guy is studying in school that can earn money later on. If you're trying to date someone that's not a net benefit to the family status, they might not approve. Before the marriage, a Filipino guy has to propose to the parents and ask for the woman's hand. This gives the girl's parents another opportunity to screen the guy and judge him not only on his character, but to be sure he's an addition to the family status and not a negative. And not only do we hear it from our families, but it's constantly drummed into us by our media. The telenovela is the most popular thing on TV here. And most of them are obsessed with the same two themes: infidelity, usually the man cheating on the wife, and a plot about a poor person marrying a rich person, which is something that doesn't happen much in real life. So it's our version of the Disney fantasy. The movie Pretty Woman was a huge hit here too because it deals with the same hot button theme. Plus, it was just a good movie. I love Julia Roberts. It's a common plot for you guys as well, but you're not obsessed with it to the same degree we are. So, what happens when two Filipinos decide to get married? And by the way, that always means one man and one woman. We don't allow same-sex marriages here. In the Philippines, the man's family traditionally pays for the wedding, unlike the Western culture of having the bride's family cover the cost. It's starting to change a little bit, and sometimes you see a 50-50 split, but typically, the man's responsible for it. Okay, after the wedding, as far as supporting each other's families, it goes like this. We usually don't have a set amount, but it's understood that a couple will support both families as needed if they can, obviously, if they can afford it. If there's a recurring bill, like for mom's heart medication, then the couple might agree to give a constant amount every month. On top of any regular support, if there's some kind of emergency, all of the children and all the spouses are obligated to help. And if you're the eldest child, lucky for me, we're even more responsible to help our family. So the moral of that story is, don't marry an oldest child. She comes with extra baggage. So what happens when only one spouse is working? That's often the man, because the woman stays at home with the kids. Well, they're supposed to help the two families equally. But what sometimes happens is that the husband feels like the money is his, so he tries to help his family more than hers, which obviously creates problems. Or maybe the wife works, but the husband is unemployed, and the same tug of war happens in the opposite direction. Because of situations like these, both spouses often have secret stashes of money that they funnel to their families without the other spouse knowing about it. Imagine the chaos. If the woman handles the money, sometimes she'll skim a little off the top and hide it away. And of course, when the man controls the money, he does the same thing. Except in that case, the money often goes to gambling or drinking and other women. I think that might be why most of the time it's the Filipina that handles a couple's money. And what about extended family? Even Filipino husbands get asked to send help to the relatives, like to pay for his wife's cousin to go to school. But the person that gets the money is expected to provide a service. Not that kind of service, of course. Like housekeeping or becoming a nanny to their children in return. So guys, here's a pro tip. The next time you're asked to help your wife's niece to pay a bill, just come up with a list of things the niece can do in return and see if she still needs the money as badly. Now, our tradition says that once a Filipino becomes married and has children, we're supposed to be released from our obligation to the family. But any of you that are married to Filipinas know that the fun never ends, especially if it looks like you can afford to help. Once again, this is true whether you're a Filipino or a foreigner. But the problem is, we don't believe a foreigner when he says he can't afford it. Sorry, guys. So, what happens when one family is always needing more help than the other family? Well, as you can imagine, that's often the case, and it can cause all sorts of fights. That's one reason why we typically marry people from the same class. Because as always, it's the all-important status that often determines how a Filipino gets treated by their spouse's family. If the wife is from a noticeably lower status clan, her in-laws might treat her more like a slave or a maid and not show her any respect at all. And the same thing is true on the other side. If a poor man marries a richer woman, her in-laws might make nasty comments to him and ask him, "Why can't you provide for your wife?" In some cases, if a Filipino goes against the wishes of their parents and marries someone of a lower status, the parents will even disown their own son or daughter. That's how seriously we take it here. So, I think you're beginning to see that a Filipino's parents have a big influence in our relationship. But It doesn't end with the marriage certificate. It continues way beyond that. They can try to break couples up if they think their side isn't getting enough money. Or sometimes they pressure couples to stay together even when it's not working, so that the money will keep flowing. Whether they're happy or not, high-status couples are almost always pressured to stay together for the mutual benefit of both families and to maintain the proper image. They tell us to stay together for the children because there's always children. It's like the default setting. If you're married, you have to have children. So we end up staying in unhappy marriages, and instead of discussing problems and working them out, we just grow distant from each other. But we stay together because our parents want us to, even after the love is gone. I know it's sad to say. Staying in a marriage, a loveless marriage, eek, that's horrible. You know what? As a result, men often decide to go off and cheat or take a lover, and the women pretend not to notice. Filipinas cheat too, sometimes, but it's mostly the men. Actually, I was reading surveys that said about a third of Filipino husbands cheat on their wives, while less than a quarter of Western men do. Wow, I was surprised, really. And as a result of being forced to stay with someone you no longer love without having divorce as an option, there's also a lot of domestic violence and mental anguish that goes on here. I know certain people who are trapped. I know this whole situation may sound pretty sick to you, but like I always say, don't shoot the messenger. I'm just here to tell you the facts. And don't think for a minute that other Filipinos don't know the facts, that you Western guys are more likely to stick around and be faithful. We might not have seen the studies or know the statistics, but we've seen what usually happens to Filipinas that marry foreigners. And on top of that, you guys usually don't need a Filipina to help support your families back in the West. And you won't look down on us if we belong to a lower class. So that's already a big bonus for us when we're considering a mate. So again, you guys are really attractive to Filipinas. Western guys are usually seen as a step up in status too. Yeah, for the reasons other than money. So you can see why you have an advantage when it comes to courting a Filipina. I'm not saying it's right or wrong, it's just the way it is here. And it's like this in many other cultures too, not just us. In fact, I think the Western system of choosing a mate is the exception, not the rule, if you look at it globally. The friction occurs when you try to mix the expectations of your culture with the realities of ours. No, again, it's not all about the money. There's hopefully love involved too, but if you're looking to marry a Filipina, be prepared to deal with the question of status, whether you're a foreigner or not. Well, I hope this gave you a clear picture of what goes on through our minds here and how the system works in the Philippines. The local men don't have it any easier than you do, guys. In fact, it's probably worse. But I'm sure it doesn't make you feel any better about the subject of supporting a Filipina's family. I have a feeling that as we progress economically, we won't rely on the system any longer. But who knows when the heck that will be. Anyway, I'll be back on Friday with something new. I wish I could tell you what it was, but it all depends on how this trip goes. But either way, it'll be something good. Till then, folks. If you think about it, I'm kind of like your massage therapist, helping you relieve all the stress and worries about life in a new country and making sure to hit all the trigger points of local culture and costumes. The only thing I ask for my service is that you please subscribe to my channel and hit the notification bell so you're not late for your next session. And please consider becoming a patron so you can see all the extra content and exclusive videos on my Patreon page. And while you're waiting for your next appointment, feel free to check out these other videos too. So, are you ready for your massage? I promise I won't rub you the wrong way. Unless you ask me to.